Chelsea starts this hour off in Mobile, Alabama. Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Good. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Well, thank you so much for taking this call. It really means a lot to me. I actually sent this question in after watching y'all's SMART conference in Nashville a few weeks ago, and it just meant a lot that y'all reached out to have me ask this question live. So I guess I'll get right into it. I've been working the baby steps since 2019. I've paid off $32,000 worth of credit card debt in my car.
Good for
Hope
you.
to never have a car note. Yeah, thank you. Hope to never have a car note ever again. I still owe $72,000 in student loan debt. I currently rent in Alabama, and my husband, I'm married. My husband lives in Maryland, and we own a house in Maryland. He works for the railroad, and he hasn't been able to find opportunities equivalent to what he has right now in Maryland. Long story short, I lived in Maryland for 5 years. That's where I met him. I'm a person in recovery from substance use. Moved away to get well, and then moved back closer down south to where my son from my first marriage is. So that's why we're living separate right now, because my son is down south. So my question is, I'm looking to get closer to my son in Mississippi. He lives about an hour and a half away from me. And like I said, I currently rent. The town that he lives in is very rural, and there's not a lot of opportunities to rent. There's nothing available based on the 4 calls that I've made. It's, like I said, a small community. So my husband and I are considering looking to purchase a second home for me in Mississippi near where my son is. And this would require us to go outside of the baby steps. And we're just trying to weigh all of our options here. And I feel like I'm in a race against time to spend more time with my son while he's, at this stage of life. He's 12. And right now I only get him every other weekend in the summers. So, that's kind of where we're at, just trying to weigh all of our options.
It sounds to me like you are trying to do everything all at once.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, I feel comfortable renting. I'd be fine to rent if I were closer to my son.
Now, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about you're trying to do a long distance marriage. You're really right now trying to do a long distance parenting. Yeah. And you're trying to clean up your finances, and you're trying to stay sober. You're trying to do a lot of stuff all at the same time. And I'm afraid all of this is going to implode on itself. You're asking a lot of you.
Yeah, it is a lot. I mean,
it's too much.
I feel like, if I could get in a second house, and to say too, my husband and I don't combine finances, at least not now. We're not against it. We just, us living separate, it's just made sense for us not to put our finances together, and that may be wrong. Maybe we can look at combining.
Let me stop a second, because I appreciate that you need to be near your 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But you need to be near your husband more.
Yeah.
It's more important.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in this conversation has ever ended this fact that you're in 2 different cities. And never one time have I heard you all bring this to a close. Everything, it's almost like it was going on forever, the way you talk about it. You guys don't have a plan to land this plane. And that's bothering me more than anything you're asking about. I've been married 41 years, and somebody asked me the other night how we've been married 41 years. It's because I told Sharon if she leaves, I'm going with her. I couldn't stand to do what you're doing. No. I would be a complete wet dish rag wimp. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it. She says if she dies, I'm going to get remarried in about 30 minutes just because I can't make it. That's what she says, and she's right. So I don't understand. I can't get my head around what y'all are doing.
Well, I work from home, so I'm able to see him. Like, we make plans to see each other every 6 weeks, where I stay with him for 2 weeks, and then I'm back home.
That's not marriage. That's a fun weekend dating opportunity.
Yeah.
This is not a good plan, honey.
And if you buy another house, you're cementing yourselves further apart.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what would be the solution? Like, if I lived with, having my experience in substance use and mental health, like, what would it hurt my son from him not to have his mom full time? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a temporary thing that I'm wanting to spend this time with my son until he's grown,
Well, it's only 6 years.
Like, for the next 5 years. Yeah, 5 to 6 years.
By then, your marriage is dust.
Yeah.
And it's not so much of a marriage right now. Like, let me put it this way. I know firsthand people close to me that I love and care about who are married to the railroad. Okay? Mm-hmm. If my wife said, I have to leave this town in order to stay sober and be mentally and physically well, I don't care what my job is, I quit. I'm going to go with her. Mm-hmm. And so right now, as far as I'm concerned, he is choosing. He's married to his job more than he's married to his wife.
And you're married to a 12-year-old more than your husband.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so what you're...
No, I would not buy a house.
No.
You guys got to solve for this.
Yeah.
He needs to come down there and y'all buy a house and sell the house in Maryland. And until that's done, you don't buy. That's what needs to happen. Or you need to go back to Maryland and you need to spend the money you would have spent on the house on airline tickets to come see your boy or more often.
He needs his mama well more than he needs a stretched thin, barely hanging on, barely sober mom coming to see him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine going back to using. I mean, August will be 10 years that I've been clean and sober.
Way to go. I'm proud of you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine
but
going back there.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't want to, there's no point in creating all these stress points. That's what John's saying about you being thin.
Yeah.
It's just because
and you're right,
somebody needs to give up something here to get a more sane life situation, and only then do you make the decision to buy. But no, cementing this separated marriage by you buying a house for 6 years, no.
Yeah, I would make a very clear, within 90 days, within 180 days,
here's what we're going to do.
We are living together.
Some way or another.
Right.
And what's that look like? How's that happen?
You may have to deal with an ugly reality. An ugly reality where he says, I'm not leaving. And then y'all are going to have some hard choices to make and some hard decisions to make. But just pretending that those hard decisions don't have to be made is just making you both crazier and crazier and crazier.
Yeah. I'm sorry, honey.
I hate
sorry
it for
you're going through all this.
Yeah.
And I love how you want to be there with your son. And I think that is, it is important. And there's other ways to accomplish it rather than buying a house and in a town because you hadn't been able to find a rental. But I don't even want you buying a rent. I don't even want you finding a rental. I want you guys to solve for how we're going to be together and how we're going to serve the 12-year-old.
And I think it's important, Dave. People call my show all the time asking about, what do I do? How do I deal with an anxious kid? Or how do I deal with a kid that's struggling with depression? The number one answer I'm always going to tell parents is you go get well, because your kids are absorbing that stuff. You go take care of you, make sure you're whole, and then circle back and start trying to solve your kid. It almost always, not always, but almost always begins to lift that child up when mom and dad are whole.
Not a 12-year-old on the planet that doesn't look at this marriage situation and go, huh?